got two youngins not 10 years old. Well, $200 left in his billfold, and a week's worth of groceries is the price of gold when your whole damn country's been bought and sold. Never there's been hard times, it's always made hard folks who could get her to the other side and not let it be all she wrote. I'd love to live to be an old man, but God, you can take me a young one. Just don't let the land I love die so young. Of thee I sing, I've been flying low in my troubled mind. Get to digging me a hole my soul can't climb. It's the end of the world, but nobody knows, 'cause they all just stare at the trash on their phones in a land that's littered with many men's bones who died fighting for somewhere they could call home. Whenever there's been hard times, it's always made hard folks who could get her to the other side and not let it be all she wrote. I'd love to live to be an old man, but God, you can take me a young one. Just don't let the land I love die so young. Of thee I sing,
flying high, you know how I feel. Sun in the sky, you know how I feel. Breeze drifting on by, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me, yeah.
What is going on, Hive? Today is July 7th, 2025. Got the audio coming in loud and clear. And I am happy to be back. And I'm very much so looking forward to this stream with Devil's Advocates. We were talking backstage, and we seem to feel pretty similar about some of the headlines that we've seen over this last weekend and just our general thoughts. So we're going to break that down. We're going to get into it. I want to say what's up to everybody. I missed you guys. Hopefully everybody still has all their fingers. I do, fortunately. So we went a little crazy on the fireworks, and it was awesome. But I'm glad to be back. It was a great break to kind of unplug for the weekend. And I want to say what's up to everybody. Chrissy's in here. Lenny, D Smalls, Jay Gamble. I missed you guys. Sharon. Yo, Les. What's up, Mama Tata? Susan. CJ. War Eagle. Brooke, it's been too long. Scout, I hope you really didn't lose a toe. That would suck. That would suck. What's going on? Reggie and Phoenix is in here, and Bobby and Chocolate Empress. Jody. Kimberly's in Illinois tuning in. Regina. Jess says, what's up to the chat? What's going on? Nonchalant Dread Mom. It's another awesome username. Doms, what's good? My fellow cheesehead. I miss the Hive as well. April's tuning in from Texas. 509 fam is in the house. What's up, Toonie? Michigan. You're right, CJ. I can't. Key West. We got Palm Beach is tuning in. We got Tennessee, KCMO, North Carolina, the UK, Kansas, another Kansas. Pray for Texas is right. That's crazy. Shout out to that Coast Guard swimmer guy that saved like 165 people by himself. It's wild. Canada, Louisiana, Midwest, North Central Florida, Twilight Zone. I always like to end on a funny one like that, but what is going on, everybody? We got a good stream lined up for you. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to bring Devil's Advocates up.
Hey.
What is going on, man?
Living the dream. Getting kicked in the teeth by all the people who are like, it's over, man. Quit talking about Coberger.
Oh, God. When we were sitting around the campfire and I had a couple fireballs in me, I just couldn't hold back. I just had to let it go. I had to just say, I'm so sick of reading the headlines and then having to listen to people who only read the headlines that are like, that guy was the most obviously guilty person ever. And it's like, I sound like a maniac around a campfire.
Yeah.
But it's hard to really fathom how on its face obvious this is just not like what we're being told happened did not happen, everybody.
Yeah, I had somebody that did the whole like, thank God this is over. I knew 15 seconds after reading the headline when it first happened 2 years ago that what happened. And I'm like, well, good for you for really giving it some thought, though. I'm really glad that you spent some time really mulling that over, that you knew in 15 seconds what the outcome was. And 2 years later, you're like, congratulations. I was always right from the very beginning. Good on you. Good job.
No kidding. Right, dude? I mean, one of the things that's really been hard for me to wrap my head around is like how everybody just believes it too. Like they fully believe it. And that's obviously one of the reasons why I started this channel, is because I typically don't believe headlines, or I can kind of read through the headlines.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that I'm like the world's best teacher at showing people how to do it. But when you start asking the right questions about like, well, why would they say that? Or who benefits from that? Once you learn to do it, you can't not do it.
Right. Yeah. And I pretty much, I mean, I can't 100% prove it, but like I kind of retired a while back, and there was a guy that I worked with that was super, I thought we were friends. But he knew what I was going to do, that I was going into YouTubing and stuff like that. And when I went back to go visit my old workplace, he treated me like shit, wouldn't even talk to me. And it turned out like he doesn't like that I do what I do. He's like, I think it's disgusting that you support people who are killers and whatever. And I'm just like, wow, like I had no idea that that's how you felt about things, but like, yeah, it's horrible. So yeah, I guess you could say I didn't lose a friend because it wasn't a friendship in the first place. If that's really how he views our relationship is.
That's sad. It's
Surface
too
level.
bad, man, because it's such a simple way of looking at it, and clearly your guys' relationship in his mind must have been much shallower than how you viewed it. So
Yeah.
well, good riddance. Be gone.
Yeah.
And you know, when I have this graphic up, framing Brian Coberger, I still think is too simple of a summary of what happened. Because guys, I'm starting to wonder if Brian Coberger, like when I say was he framed, or was he just literally railroaded? Like they're not framing him in a way. Like I know he's in prison now for the rest of his life, allegedly. No plea deals. But like, did they even frame him? Because there's no evidence on him.
Yeah. I have a feeling like, where my gut stands is during the entire trial, I've made it vocals many times, and I'm not the only person who just didn't feel like Ann Taylor was up for the challenge. I'm like, she seemed intimidated by Hitler. She seemed weak with her arguments. She would drop the ball on things that we would see and be like, how the hell is she not bringing this up? And I know that people would say like, oh, she's being super clever. She's laying down all the groundwork, and so I kind of went along with it for a while. I was like, oh yeah, I can see how she's going to bring this back up later on trial, but there is no trial. And then you have to ask yourself, was that always Ann Taylor's plan from the beginning, is get a plea and walk away from this thing? Like, she never intended it to go to trial. She knew she was her only job. I'm beginning to wonder, was her only job in her mind to just get a plea deal and walk away? That she never really intended to fight this in court anyways.
But then how do you explain her standing up and saying, Your Honor, my client is innocent?
Right. I mean, that's her job, right? That's her job is to presume that her client's innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. So, I mean, I would argue, I guess, that's just literally what she has to say. That's literally her job, is to put on the presumption of innocence. But behind the scenes, she's paid by the same people Bill Thompson is. It's like these guys are paid by the state. She's paid by the state as well. So what was, in the end, it was all just a kind of a hey, let's just put this thing to bed. Now, granted, did we have to wait 2.5 years to do that? Maybe it took that long to convince Coberger to take a plea deal. I don't know, but it makes, like I said, at the back of my mind, I have to wonder how effective a counsel he had, especially when you have a public defender who's paid by the state to get an outcome that is favorable to the state. One can argue that her job is to get an outcome favorable to the state. So
yeah, and what is going on, Sherlock Holmes? It's funny, actually. Somebody sent me a screenshot from your profile for a Hive Mind find that I'm going to talk about here in a couple of minutes. That theory, you really pieced a lot of stuff together. That was impressive, and I think a lot of people had questions about that whole firefighter thing, and I think you gave a pretty reasonable, I'll say a reasonable stretch as to what could have happened, right? Like, if that was really what was going on, I think that Hurwitz has been behind the scenes way longer than we also expect. Was it you, Devil's Advocates, that said that when you were in the courtroom, or there was somebody, I don't remember who it was, but I saw a clip. Somebody was at the courtroom and they heard, like, when the cameras were off, Thompson, it was either Thompson or the judge apologized that Hurwitz had to be here.
No, I didn't hear that. That wasn't me that said that. So,
but that's also weird.
Yeah.
Like, hey, sorry you got to be here. This is just the biggest high-profile case in our state that's going on.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But so this is what I showed last time, Devil's Advocates. I sent this to you. Sherlock Holmes was talking about what his theory with witness protection and the plea deal kind of being a show trial is the Cliff Note version of it. But I thought it was odd that when I went to go back and look at the post to see what other people were commenting on it, it was gone. And, I think I can put two and two together, kind of like what he was saying, and read between the lines as to maybe why that had to get taken down. I mean,
yeah, and probably can't talk about it, but I'm curious who asked to take it down. Like what? and was anything said about it. But again, I think he specifically said can't talk about it. So I don't know that we can answer that question. But
yeah. So I thought it was interesting, and I'm not going to, say much more of that. But this is what was making me talk about the whole Hurwitz thing. Somebody had sent me this. Hurwitz isn't coming in. He's been here. The Idaho 4 case was always a federal intelligence entanglement that Idaho was left to clean up. Coberger's a fall guy. The defense knows it, and Hurwitz's job is to make sure no one ever proves it. Courtroom's the stage. Hurwitz the director, and we're watching the show. And I think that my general theme of what tonight wanted to be is how when I first went live, I said, we need to call out exactly what is obviously happening right in front of our eyes. It's not like we're looking at this as if it's a legitimate court case. And I don't think we're looking at a legitimate case, guys. Like, it's not to say the documents aren't real. It's not to say the ceilings aren't real. I just think that we're trying to, fit a round peg in a square hole with what is going on. I just don't think it's there.
what was the there was early indication somebody pulled the national security argument about why things were gagged order. Where was that put out that was true?
Well, there was a reference in the court document to national security, and I believe it was also some sort of wording or language that had said to protect persons not named in case.
Yeah.
Right? So, dude, that from the beginning, Hurwitz is not coming in for a homicide in a college town.
Yeah.
But he would absolutely be there if people might have to go into WITSEC if it had to do with some sort of federal thing. I think there's federal oversight behind the scenes. I think that I wouldn't be surprised if the FBI asked for the gag orders the whole time.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Something's definitely, it's obvious, but something's obviously being hidden for a reason. So and it has been hidden very, very early. So there's a reason why they're hiding something, and they're going to make, and that's part of the reason why, in my opinion, we have a plea deal, is to make sure what is hidden doesn't accidentally come out in trial. So the only way to assure that doesn't come out is you just don't have a trial, and then all the people who are doing what they're doing to me right now, which is it's over, man, let it go. Why don't you quit talking about it? It's over. They will never be in those secrets revealed. It's fucking over. Go home. Take your ball and go home.
Take your ball and go home. You're not welcome here anymore.
Going home.
Oh man. Well, I don't know if we're ever gonna figure it out. I believe that we'll probably in the next 5 to 7 years see some crazy Netflix documentary that comes out and exposes whatever and tells us really what happened. But I just think I am curious to see what's going to happen at the sentencing date. And you just look at a lot of stuff too. Like, who was the creator that pointed this out? It might've been Birdie, maybe Pop.
Yeah, it was
yeah.
Embry,
But yes, so somebody sent me this too. And it's like, it's not just typo. It's evidence that this plea deal was orchestrated behind the scenes and the court was just going through the motions. Like, why else would such a high stakes historic document be handled like a post-it note correction?
Right. And what Embry pointed out, which is correct, is when you make a change to a document, especially a legal document, when you do a cross out, you have to initial the changes. There's no initials on that. That is not even, like, I've never seen a legal document that has been corrected by hand by pen that doesn't have initials verifying the correction. So that's a weird ass thing as it is too.
I thought it was weird. It looks like his handwriting.
Yeah.
Like, did he notice the mistake? He's like, oh shit, it's not June, it's July.
Right.
Like, we're talking, you're going to prison for the rest of your effing life for a quadruple homicide, and everybody sitting around you as you sign this is going to just let you change a date?
Right.
Jesus
and to be fair, maybe there's two copies of this document. One that got crossed out, and then there's the document that got filed that didn't get crossed out or something. Who knows? There could be those kind of exes. What we see, the version that we see may not be the one that's officially on file. I wouldn't be surprised about that either.
Well, yeah, and so there's a couple things. This is a little bit older, and thank you, Crystal, and to Susie and to, I don't know how to say that. Is it Chrissy's? Thank you guys for the super chats. This is an older one, but this was sent to me. I don't know how this person got it. Maybe this has gone public, but it's an email from Bill Thompson. Good afternoon, Kent. We have discussed this amongst ourselves and with the investigation leadership and have no objection to UI proceeding as you outlined. As you know, the court has already released the scene from LE custody based on a stipulation of the parties. The scene has been substantially altered from its condition at the time of the homicides, including removal of relevant property and furnishings, removal of some structural items such as wallboard and flooring, and subjected to extensive chemical application, creating a potential health hazard. These are some of the reasons that we have concluded that a jury view would not be appropriate. Please let us know if you have any questions. Thank you for working with the families. Bill.
Convenient.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Everything, they're like, there's no point in going to look. We got rid of it all.
Yeah. It's a health risk. It's a health risk. Can't go in there.
Yeah.
It'd be dangerous.
And we sprayed it with chemicals so that now,
which isn't even the excuse that I heard. I heard the excuse is that it was going to be too psychologically damaging for the students to walk past the house all the time. It would become a freak show. They'd be trying to break into the house to be part of the murder scene. So it's just best to tear it down. So it's just not a stain on our memory. Not the whole is dangerous for the jurors. So we decided to tear it down. Shit.
Yeah, everything's for everybody's safety, right?
Right. It's all yes, correct. It's always for your safety.
All right,
you can't handle the truth. So we're
yeah. Like you said, take your ball, go home. You guys don't deserve the truth. It's over.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh-oh, did we just freeze? I thought we just froze up. I didn't hear you talking. Yeah, we're back.
You can hear me?
Yes.
All right.
I thought you were just going super silent and thinking about things.
Oh, no. Sorry if that froze, my bad. Okay, so this is interesting. This is an article from TMZ, so take it for what it's worth. But they do seem to piece together quite some coincidental things about a case that happened 29 years ago. And it says, I'll just sum it up kind of. The Brian Coberger plea deal.
Oh, no, you're freezing up again.
Sorry about that, guys. If it keeps freezing, hopefully I'm back.
You're back now.
Okay. The Brian Coberger plea deal in Idaho is not the first controversial bargain struck by the same DA's office, because the top prosecutor made a similar deal nearly 29 years ago to the day. And it also involved murders and the death penalty. TMZ did some digging, and we found out that back in July of 96, Latah County prosecutor Bill Thompson, who still holds the same position today, struck a deal to spare the life of a man who admitted killing 2 people. The parallels here are eerie, because in that case, 2 Chinese nationals were stabbed to death in their Moscow, Idaho apartment, and a former University of Idaho student copped to the murders. The killer, Wen Kai Li, was charged with first-degree murder, and capital punishment was on the table if he was found guilty. But he struck a deal with Thompson where the death penalty was taken off the table, and he pled guilty to second-degree murder. The families of the slain victims in that case were furious, and they ripped Thompson in a letter to the judge saying they were extremely upset and dissatisfied with the plea bargain, which they said betrayed the truth. Charged with first-degree murder and the brutal stabbing deaths of the Idaho 4, the students were killed inside their off-campus home in Moscow. Prosecutors were seeking the death penalty. They made a deal with Coberger, who pled guilty in exchange for prosecutors removing capital punishment. We all know what happened, but the families of 2 of the victims are up in arms. Thompson is a common denominator here, and it kind of makes you wonder, is this the DA's MO, taking the death penalty off the table and plea bargaining to avoid a trial? And at the end, he said as much back in 96, saying that the plea deal secured a conviction without the risk or expense of a trial. That is some dirty shit right there.
Yeah. I mean, this is the thing that, I mean, I know we're beating a dead horse, but the truth, in my opinion, is the state would have never offered a plea deal if it was as rock solid as everybody has been told. Everybody in America says, oh my God, they've got him dead to rights. There's no way he has a chance in hell. Then if that's the case, there's no way they're offering him a plea deal. If they know they've got him, there's no way. So the fact that they gave him a plea deal means that they had a risk of losing the case. And Bill Thompson isn't going to go out and retire on a loss. That's step one. So, and then on top of that, there's something that I think is being hidden that they don't want out in the public. So a plea deal wraps everything up. They don't have anything exposed. He doesn't take a loss. Everything's happy, go hunky, you know. And I think it's just, again, it speaks for itself. If they had the solid case that they said that they had, they would have never offered the plea in the first place. They would have said, go pack sand, Coberger, you're going down. We got you.
Yeah. And guys, what's the whole saying about like a picture's worth 1,000 words or whatever it is? Something like that. You guys know what I mean?
Yep. That's it.
This is it right here. I mean, I'm telling you, you would think Ann Taylor would be mortified at this plea deal. They didn't produce a shred of evidence. The way that the prosecution summed up that PCA in their own little varied version of it, it's like, how in good faith do you sit there and let your client say yes to that?
I had a hard time, man. I was in the courtroom, and when Bill Thompson, when Hippler said two things that he said that just it made me just freak out. He says to Coberger, Hippler says, I want you to understand fully what the state would have had to have proven against you in a trial. And then I want you to hear the prosecution tell you what they would have been able to prove in court. It was almost like, dude, are you listening? This is what they would have had to have proven, and here's what they have against you. And I was like, okay, this better be good. Tell me something, Bill Thompson, that I'm like, holy shit. If that would have come out in court, that explains everything. And as I watched him give nothing, he didn't even say they had an eyewitness. He literally said, we can't definitively put Coberger at the house. We can only put his phone near the house. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? After all these years, you're going to end with, we have nothing more than what you knew 2 years ago. And everybody's like, oh, wait, devil's advocates, when they get to trial, you're going to see all this shit. They've got video of him walking in. Yes. His face is on camera. You wait. Bill Thompson said nothing of the sort. He basically said, we have nothing more than you all know what we had from day one.
Yes.
I was stunned. I was like, that's his fucking case? That's his whole case?
What was the second thing that made you freak out? Was it when the judge also looked at Coberger and he said, because I don't want you to admit to a crime you did not commit? Right. That was also weird.
Yeah. The one that bothered me the most and felt like a cover up in the whole thing was this statement. And I forgot how he worded it. He says, I want you to admit that you did the crime and that you did it alone. And I was like, you motherfucker. Of course you want him to say he did it alone. I don't think he did it alone. But you're saying part of this plea deal is I want you to say not only did you do it, but you did it alone. So we can put that to bed that there's anything else and nobody else is involved. You did it and you did it only. And that's what I want to hear you say. You did it and you did it alone. It's like, of course.
Do you know also how odd it is? Yeah. They're not like the amount of people that the entire trial or leading up to this, whatever we just watched, was to your point of they have so much evidence. You're going to see it in the trial. It's going to come out. You guys are going to go look so stupid. It's like the way that he summed it up is like, yeah, well, we have circumstantial evidence, but I'm going to do my best to make it sound like it's not circumstantial. But I'm also going to admit to everybody, while we admit it was a very dense, college-aged population, and there was the one tower, and we can't put them close to it. And although we didn't see, like, it's just.
And I'm only going to say this here because I feel like your audience isn't going to crucify me if I say what I'm going to say here as opposed to somewhere else, which is that here's kind of what I think happened. I think as we approached trial, Bill Thompson and the prosecution knew that they had a circumstantial case and that there was a risk of losing the case. They reached out and put pressure. This is all my theory, so it's not, I can't prove none of this. They reached out and put pressure on Molly McMichaels to get her on the stand and say she saw Brian Coberger outside the house because they needed somebody to put him there at the scene because they didn't have a case. They couldn't put Brian Coberger at the house. So they needed somebody to come forward and put him at the house. And then that went to shit. And it was only after Molly McMichaels went to shit that they said, well, fuck it. it, we'll take a plea deal. Because if they had been able to pull it off, and if Molly's credibility hadn't been shot, we probably would have had a trial. But because they would have had an eyewitness to put him at the house. But when they lost her, because I think they lost her. I think she lost credibility when all the videos came out and all the internet sleuths started pulling up Molly's arrest and started to look at suspicious shit. They went, well, fuck, we can't put her on the stand anymore. And when they do, now it's time to talk about a plea, because we don't have somebody to definitively say, I saw Coberger walk into the house.
Yes.
And I think it's when they lost the case. Exactly.
And to your point, this is a theory that I have. So yes, this is a tinfoil hat theory of, I obviously can't prove this, everybody. I went back and I watched the video because there was some controversy around, was the video doctored when it came to the sentencing, and when the judge said, how do you plead, to murdering Xander Kernodle, a human being, and Ethan Chapin, a human being. He did say it all 4 times when he was asking Brian Coberger yes or no. However, when it came to the guilty plea, where he had to say, how do you plead? Guilty, not yes or no, but the actual plea part, he only said human being for 2 of them. And we've looked into why that could be. Now, you look at Steve G not being in the courtroom. Everybody thinks he was. Devil's advocates, you were obviously there. Steve G was not in the courtroom, and you saw the guy that everybody thought was Steve sitting in there, but he did not.
Yeah. I to clarify that too, I want to say, because it was funny. Somebody was challenging me on that in a recent live I had, and they said, well, Steve Gonzalez was there. I mean, everybody's talking about it. He was there in the courtroom. He's on camera. He's sitting. And then they told me where he was sitting. And I said, hold on. I was in the courtroom. So if you're telling me where he was sitting, let's look. So I did on a live, I typed up a picture of the courtroom, and I was lucky enough, we got a screenshot of the guy, and they said, see right there, that's Steve Gonzalez. I said, nope, that's not. I'm glad I saw it with my own eyes. I can see why you think it's Steve Gonzalez, because it does kind of look like Steve Gonzalez from that image, but that absolutely was not Steve Gonzalez. First of all, that was where Coberger's family was sitting. There's no way in hell Steve Gonzalez is sitting buddy with Coberger's dad and mom. That's who that person was sitting with. It was Coberger's parents and his sister. That was not Steve Gonzalez, but it does admittedly look a little bit like Steve Gonzalez. But I'm glad that I saw, because when they said, yeah, that's him right there, I was like, okay, good. I'm glad we can put this to rest, because I can guarantee you. And on top of that, I saw a video later of Steve Gonzalez on the porch or on the steps of the courthouse, and he was wearing a different colored shirt. So he wasn't even in that colored shirt for the trial. So I can personally say definitively Steve Gonzalez was not in the courtroom.
So that's where, again, my whole tinfoil hat thing of people go, why is Steve G not in the courtroom for this? Well, if let's say that whole, again, I'm speculating on the human being thing, but it wasn't read for Maddie or Kaylee. So is that why Steve G legally got away with breaking the gag order? Is that why Steve G's not in the courtroom? Guys, that's the stretch. That's obviously what we do on the stream. So again, this stream might not be for everybody. If you're going to get pissed about that, it's not meant to offend anybody. The judge.
I want to tell you another thing. By the way. I just finished reading Howard Bloom's book, When the Night Comes Falling, and I recorded my thoughts on the very last chapter. One of the things that came out in the chapter was about how Steve Gonzalez, along with his private investigator, was investigating the thing because he didn't trust the feds. He didn't trust Moscow Police Department. He needed to know for himself. He didn't think they were doing a good job. Steve, through his investigator, got a lead on somebody who was, how did they word it? That knew exactly what happened in the house. I think it was Bethany Funk. The FBI, according to Howard Bloom, told Steve Gonzalez, let it go. You will not contact that person. You will be arrested if you try. That is a confidential informant. You will not pressure them. And he was like, he was ready to sit down and say, look him in the eye and say, tell me what the hell you saw that night. And the FBI stepped in and said, we will arrest you, Steve, if you talk to that person. Do not talk to them. So I personally think that was Bethany Funk. I think the feds moved her out of the state, took steps to make sure that she wouldn't come back and testify, because I believe she has exculpatory information that would, I think personally, and it's a guess, I think personally, Bethany Funk saw somebody at the back of the house out of their clothes, putting clothes into a garbage bag. This was rumored in text messages. It was rumored in several places that Bethany Funk saw somebody. I think she did. And the problem is I think who Bethany Funk saw wasn't Brian Coberger. And if she had been allowed to testify and put under oath about who it was she saw or that gave a description that didn't match Coberger, the case would be over. And their answer was take her and put her in custody, put her in protection and help her fight being extradited back so that she doesn't go in the stand. And if it looks like we can't, here's the thing. If it looks like we can't keep her from testifying, fucking take a plea deal. Don't let that shit come out. But take a plea. If you can't keep her and she's going to be subpoenaed and she's going to have to go under oath, then take a plea deal and get off of this thing right away.
And now that makes a lot of sense why Hurwitz would be there. That's absolutely something he would get involved with,
right?
Depending on who they're protecting that witness from, right? Like, that turns federal. And, I just go back to thinking about it. To wrap it all in a bow, you have no murder weapon, no motive, can't place him in the house, no direct contact with the victims. It wasn't a sexual crime. He didn't stalk them. Right. And they've said all of this. That is the reality of it. Brian Coberger, it does not make sense, everybody.
You just brought up another thing. That was another one that put the hackles for me. Now, maybe not for you, and I know people get upset about this, so I'll try to skirt the issue. I thought it was telling that Bill Thompson said, I want to make it clear there was no sexual element in this case. And I thought, isn't that fucking interesting that Bill Thompson feels it's necessary to make sure everybody knows there was no sexual component to the crime. I think that was done for a reason, because there's alternate suspects, that there's an indication that it has some kind of personal thing of a sexual nature. And he's like, I want to make it clear there was none of that, which was hopefully to put that rumor to bed is what I think that was for.
I agree. And think about all these douchebag experts that come out and say, he's an incel, he's a loner, he's did this was 100% sexual crime. Like, dude, there was literally no evidence of that. When you want to talk about there's no evidence in this case, right? And they want to say there's so much evidence. Okay, well then fine. At least we can have a give and take. Show me the evidence of anything sexual that you guys absolutely drilled that narrative into people's heads to now. That's the only thing that people parrot is
right.
It's so wild.
And it drives me nuts that they've repeatedly said Brian Coberger had no connection to any of the girls in the house. We have no evidence whatsoever there was any connection whatsoever. And again, Howard Bloom's book ends with, here's what happened. He went to the Mad Greek restaurant, which we can't prove. He saw Maddie and he became obsessed with her. And then he had to kill her because he couldn't have her. And I'm like, there's no fucking connection. They literally said it on the stand. There's no connection between Brian Coberger and any of the girls. But yet we're going to still go with the narrative. And this is what drives me nuts the most. We're going to hear this 5 years from now. I'm going to hear somebody pop up. Well, yeah, he was obsessed with one of the girls in the house, and I'm going to lose my shit. I'm like, are you kidding? 5 years later, we're still talking about he's obsessed with one of the girls in the house. They already said it wasn't true.
But you know what's weird? You just said something that just kind of sparked a thought, which is it looks like a crime of passion.
Yeah.
But there's nothing that Brian has that would create him to have that passion to do the crime. So when you break it down that way, yeah, it absolutely looks personal. Allegedly, face is beat in, it was stabbed, it was done with a knife, it was brutal, right?
Let's think about this too. This is something that I just thought of just today when I was thinking about it again. So Bloom's idea and many people's idea is somehow this mysterious meeting between Coberger and Maddie made him obsessed with Maddie, and she was the target because he couldn't have her, or maybe she rebuffed him. And I'm thinking, okay, let's go back to that pool party. Brian Coberger got girls' phone numbers, texted them, and they blew him off. They didn't write back. If he's a serial killer guy that can't have the rejection, why didn't he kill her ass? Yeah. Why didn't he immediately go kill her? If he can't handle rejection, that's a female we know rejected him. Did he go kill her? Why? It doesn't make sense to me.
It doesn't make sense. And we've talked about this on the stream too, just because you brought that up on that text message that the girl gave Dateline to show about when Brian did follow up with her that next day about going hiking, right?
Yeah.
And he was saying, like, I really enjoy that activity. And I've said the guy was effed either way, because he could say something very nice and cordial about a conversation, or he could have been like, yeah, your ass looked great in that bikini, and now he's even bigger of a creep.
And the thing that gets a little overlooked is that even she, on that same episode, I think it was the Dateline episode, right, where they talked about the hiking thing, even she said, I don't know why I didn't write back to Coberger. It's not like he was so creepy, I got this weird vibe that he was a killer. No, nothing like that. It was like, I don't know why I didn't write back. She didn't say she didn't like him. She didn't say that she didn't find him attractive. She just said, I'm not sure why I didn't, but thank God I didn't. But it's not like she didn't even say I got creepy vibes from him. She's like, I don't know why I didn't write him back. That doesn't sound like she's terrified of the guy.
And guys, I hate that I have to say this. If I am wrong, then I'm wrong. And if Brian did this, he's a piece of shit, and he should be shot and pissed on, right? Like that's a terrible, heinous crime. Nothing that I've seen, and with all of the other shit that we've dug into and quote unquote speculated on, makes me feel like I've heard the real story in this case. At the minimal, I don't think that we know the real story of this. I do not think that this kid transferred schools, did it because of the crime of passion, did it with a K-bar, left the sheath, made every simple mistake in the book, but yet he's such a criminology genius that of course he could get away with it. And now he takes, I would argue, the stupidest plea deal of all time. How do you, dude, if you could say, oh, he's afraid of the death penalty. Do you know how many appeals he would have? Do you know how much other, it's just,
Have we talked about the theory about the plea deal being to protect his parents? Have we talked about that, you and I?
Oh, no, we haven't.
So there's a thought process going on that the morning of the killings, Brian Coberger called his father allegedly and spent an hour on the phone with him about 6 o'clock in the morning. It's come out in later investigations that call may have been to a phone number registered to his father, but it was actually his mother that he talked to for an hour on the phone right after the timing of the murders. Now, where that goes is, the speculation is, did Brian Coberger do something like this? Mom, I fucked up. I got into a thing. I've done something. I can't tell you, whatever the case may be. Maybe he confessed in some way on that hour call right after doing something. It was like, I fucked up. I'm in big trouble. And if they held that, they might be threatened for accomplices to murder after the fact, because they withheld that information from law enforcement during the investigation and stood by their son and didn't tell anybody. Did someone then lean on the parents and say, not only will your son go to jail, but you're going to jail as well because you knew about it? And did that factor into the plea deal of like, well, now they're not going to just go after me. Like maybe Coberger would have been willing to take his chances by himself, but now they're threatening to throw his parents in jail as well. So did that factor in?
Yeah, maybe. And I think Euphoric 7 made a good point. Like Bethany called her parents also, but the news didn't make a big deal of that.
Right.
I wonder if, see, this is where I go back to like, because I saw a lot of people in the Hive saying like BK could be a Fed or he's in WITSEC. If he's a Fed, like, do you think he'd maybe be calling his mom being like, hey, here's my assignment. I'm about to be the worst person in America and crucified and absolutely drugged through the mud, and our lives are over, Mom.
By the way, I'm talking this out loud for the first time right here. Here's another thing. Steve Gonzalez said on the steps of the courthouse when he was on his interview. By the way, I don't know if you know. Anyways. I don't even know where to start. So before the trial, at about 7 o'clock in the morning, the courtroom was going to open at 8. I was in line since 3 o'clock in the morning. At 7 o'clock in the morning, I had media come rushing up to some of the reporters. It's hard to explain, but there was media that came with, like, Fox News had like 5 reporters there. One was in line with me to go into the courthouse, and the rest of the team was outside. So somebody from Fox comes up to his Fox reporter standing in line next to me, and right in front of my earshot says, hey, we just got word Steve Gonzalez is going to make a stink in front of the courthouse. He's coming to make a protest on the steps of the courthouse. And the guy's like, holy shit, where should I be? Do I go into the court or do I stay out here for Steve Gonzalez's shit show? So that was all happening right before we went into the courthouse. Now I decided to go into the courthouse rather than wait for the shit show on the steps. And so I missed the entire shit show. But when I saw the video later of Steve Gonzalez, and allegedly what I was told happened is Steve Gonzalez walked his wife Christy up the steps of the courthouse and then turned around and didn't come in and left. But the media ambushed him. And a statement that he made in front of the cameras really struck me as really interesting. We know when his parents booked their flights. And I said, well, and they said, what do you mean by that? And he goes, that's all I got to say. We know when you book the flights. And what I take that to mean is the parents knew a plea deal was coming before the plea deal got announced. The families were told afterwards. His parents were already told a plea deal was in place, and they booked flights and were heading out. And so Steve's, I think, hinting, we know you already knew about the plea deal coming because we know when you booked the flights. You guys were coming out and were part of the negotiations on the plea deal, which again leads to the question, was pressure being put on the parents where they're going to be arrested if they didn't come and say, look, we're going to lay it all out for you guys. Your family is going to hear everything right now. You're going to jail too if he doesn't take the plea. And did they then kind of work with their son and say, take the fucking plea? You know?
I mean, yeah, that's a good point. And also, isn't that a weird thing to make a stink about? And I was talking to Mrs. Birdie about this, and we were talking about this up north. Like, dude, how are you not in there holding your wife's hand at this plea deal hearing? How is this not? It just seems like to go and make it such a dramatic thing. I understand if you're an angry parent about it, but I just feel like for that 2 hours, wouldn't you want to sit next to your wife during that? I don't know. Maybe that's just me, but.
Well, and it has been kind of clear that Steve and Christy haven't been on the same page as far as their theories about what happened from the very beginning. So, and I theorize, but I'm questioning myself. I have theorized for a while what Steve's so pissed off about isn't what everybody thinks he's pissed off about. Everybody thinks Steve Gonzalez is pissed off because he wants Brian Coberger killed. I think Steve Gonzalez is pissed off because he knows there's other people involved and it was going to come out during trial. And now that there's no trial, people who were involved in the murder of his daughter are going to walk free. And that's what I think he's mad about. But he's not saying that. He's just making it sound like I just want the guy executed.
Dude, wait, you just said something. What if that's the whole reason why he's saying, no, this should go to trial? Because he knows that the other shit's going to come out that points to who may have actually been there and was an accomplice.
Right. I think
that makes sense, dude.
In my mind, here's what I think happened. Bethany saw something. It wasn't Coberger. It was somebody else that was there. He knows through his private investigator that there were other people involved. Steve Gonzalez knows that. That's my theory. It's a theory, people. I'm not saying this is fact. Steve Gonzalez knows through his private investigator that there was other people involved. He tried to sit down with Bethany, and according to the book, the feds, and I don't know that it's not clear in the book he was trying to sit down with Bethany. He was trying to sit down with someone, and the feds told Steve Gonzalez, let it go. Don't you dare talk to anybody. He knows there's other people involved, and I think personally, reading between the lines, Steve Gonzalez is hot because he knows, and he has actually said publicly multiple times, I'm not sure, I know Coberger did it, but he may not have done it alone. Steve has said that multiple times throughout the years. I believe they got the right guy, but he didn't do it alone. I think Steve Gonzalez knows there's other people, and those people just walked because of the plea deal. And again, I think at my gut, that tells me why Steve Gonzalez is so hot, because those people are going to walk free and maybe even more sickening, be celebrated as some kind of fucking hero around this while they were involved in the murder of his daughter. So,
oh, dude, because so let me ask you this: if Brian Coberger would have went to trial and he's found not guilty, like this might be a stupid question, does that reopen an investigation into this crime? Or is, like, let's say then maybe there's another trial or whatever it is. But let's just say at the end of the day, the jury finds him not guilty.
Yeah.
Does that ever spark another investigation then to figure out who did it or not?
Only if somebody takes up the mantle, only if somebody has some new theory and new piece of evidence that comes out. So yes, if new evidence comes out. And by the way, here's another thing that you and I haven't talked about. One of the things that came with this plea deal is the facts have now been established about when Brian Coberger arrived for the crime and when he left the crime. If someone can ever come forward, even 5 years from now, to prove definitively Brian Coberger could not have been in the house at the time that they said he was, then everything changes, including a deal that said there's no appeals. If he physically could not have done it because they've already established the timeline. This is when you entered the house. This is when you exited the house. If something comes out like a SIRE that says, I can prove to you, and oh, by the way, we just found out that there's video footage on a camera showing that Coberger was 10 miles away from the crime at the time he said he was supposed to be there. If that kind of thing ever comes forward, this whole fucking thing goes out the window, even with a deal with no appeals. If they can prove he couldn't have done it, it changes everything.
Dude, That is a great point. And if you look at the comment that 40 Life Candles just put up, and maybe that's why he kept saying, sorry, Kaylee, I let you down, because he knows, dude,
Yes.
that makes so much more sense for the rage then.
Yeah.
And not really just killing him.
Right. That person's right on. My gut tells me Steve Gonzalez knows somebody else involved. He probably knows exactly who else is involved, and he's let his daughter down because he's not going to be able to punish the person who was involved. Maybe somebody. I don't want to go too far with that, but the point being is, yes, I think you're on. I think the reason why he let his daughter down is because it's not just that we didn't kill Brian Coberger. It's that somebody who was involved. I know that somebody's involved. We're not going to get this person, and I let you down.
So, do you remember the story that you told me about Scarpa, who worked for the feds and infiltrated the mob, and they allowed him to commit murders, and then they actually helped frame other people to keep him in the mob? Yes. I wonder if it's a situation like that, where this CI is still in an ongoing investigation or who knows what. But would that make sense for this then? I think it would. I mean, they've done it in the past.
Right. I think there's an element. I don't know if that's the exact scenario, but I think there's an element in which the government has some secret involved with this house and this murder tied in somehow. And therefore it is in their interest to keep that hidden. And again, the only way to keep that hidden is to have no trial. If this goes to trial, secrets get exposed, and you risk having something. So if you have something, even if Coberger wasn't a CI, even if there was just maybe one of the killers was a Fed or involved with the feds or working with law enforcement to break up narcotics rings, and he ended up doing the killings. If somebody under their guise and their protection is involved, they want to hide any involvement or complicity in that and not stopping the guy from doing something. So the only way to do that is to not have a trial.
Which that's what we've also said too, is that's the part that I don't know if everybody has the ability to do it naturally thinking for themselves, or they have to be told for it or asked a certain question. And so I'll tell the story from like up north around the campfire, how I'm like, all right, I can't just listen to everybody talk about this guy's the most guilty guy ever. And I'm like, I just asked, like, if there was an ongoing parallel investigation that was being done on a college campus and somebody that was involved in that homicide was working for the feds or is undercover or is, caught on camera, and they can trace it back to like, whoa, he's actually in with the law enforcement. How would they ever come out and tell anybody that?
Yeah.
They would have to cover it up.
Along your campfire story, maybe I'm just a colossal pussy, but I want to tell you something that happened to me. It's true. I may be a colossal pussy. By the way, if I get a chance, I'm going to tell you how I might be a colossal pussy when it comes to Travis Decker, that guy that's on the run.
Oh, I want to hear about that.
Yeah. So anyways, but here's the thing. I'm in line, right? I'm in line for the courthouse, and everyone outside the courthouse wants Brian Coberger hung. They're all like, this is a great day. This son of a bitch is finally going down. And I'm like, I'm sitting there going, I don't know what to do. Like, do I say something? I'm not going to say anything because I don't want to cause a fight outside the courtroom. Everyone here is ready to crucify this guy, and it's all like, let's have a party. Let's get some drinks out. He's going down. Well, at some point, I lost my shit. So at some point, a guy from the AP News sitting right beside me, and he's like, hey, I'm on a late assignment. I don't even know anything about this thing. The main reporter couldn't come. They sent me. What happened here? Why did he do it? The Fox guy says without dropping a hat. Well, you have to understand, he was obsessed with one of the girls in the house, and he couldn't have her. She rejected him, so he went and killed the whole house. And by the way, he took a picture of himself in his murder garb and his black hoodie after the killings. And I'm like, do I have to fucking educate the press on what the facts are in this story? Like, I'm literally hearing the press get everything wrong. That black hoodie wasn't even from that night. And yet he's like, oh yeah, he took, and the AP guy was like, holy shit, are you kidding? What a sicko. And I'm like, I don't know what to do. Like, because if I correct them, it may turn into a lynch mob on the front steps of the courthouse. I mean, granted,
so you didn't say it? You did say anything?
I didn't say shit. I even let a guy laugh at me. I had a guy laugh at me in my face because I had my hat on with Devil's Advocates, and he looked at it and he was like, you're a dick. And I'm just like, am I gonna get into a fist fight that was in the elevator? Am I gonna get a fist fight in the elevator with the guy half my age and because he's laughing at me in my face for wearing a Devil's Advocates hat? I don't know.
Yes, I don't know. I would be like, all right, You can laugh at me for thinking he's innocent, but if you're gonna make fun of my hat, now I have to.
Now it's on.
Yeah, get over here. You know, like, oh man. So what happened with the Travis Decker thing?
Oh, so all it was. So this is crazy. So I don't know if people know this story, but Travis Decker, he's an Army veteran who murdered three of his three daughters, after, allegedly. Again, we don't know for 100%, but we believe he murdered his three daughters and then went on the run. He's been on the run for a month now. But anyways, we believed that he was heading towards the northern border. It would happen up very close to the Canadian border. He had Googled going to the Canadian border, or how to get a job in Canada. So everybody thought he was going north. And I kind of jokingly said, what if he goes south? Well, here's where the kind of got crazy. So I'm checking up on the story. I'm like, holy shit, is he still on the run? The last sighting they had for him was a family that saw him at Bear Creek Campground at the Sawtooth Mountains. And I'm like, that's fucking right where I'm at. Like, I'm really close to that. So I looked it up online, and where I go hiking all the time on a regular basis is the Eagle Cap Wilderness, which touches the Sawtooth Range. And there's literally trail systems that connect the two. And so I asked Google, I did some chat GPT shit. I'm like, hey, if a Decker was on the run and wanted to come into Wallowa, could he get from where he's at by trail systems? Yes. And it would be outside of a law enforcement's eye. It would be a great place for him to hide on these trails. And he could literally go from where he's at right now and drop down into my hometown. So the pussy part comes in when I was saying I'm a pussy is right. When I go out hiking, I wear a handgun in case I get mauled by a bear or attacked. I want to at least have a fighting chance. Or if they half maul me, I'll shoot myself, whatever the case may be.
Jesus Christ.
Right? So I'm just being blunt. I tell shit like it is. Right. Yeah. So anyways, I'm thinking to myself, what if I came across Travis Decker on the thing? And I'm thinking to myself, you know what he would see? He sees an old fart with free ammunition. And he's like, well, fuck, that old fart's got a gun. I got a gun now. And I'm thinking, this guy is trained in survival and combat skills. I'm trained in like computer games and internet porn. I have no chance against this guy. So I'm thinking I'm a dead man if I meet up with Travis on the road. So that was where I'm like pussy, because everything about me is like, if Travis Decker sees me, I'm a dead man. He's just going to take my gun and that's going to be it. I'm not going to shoot the guy because I don't even know if it's him. Like, I couldn't fire on the guy because he changes looks like he changes underwear. I don't even know if I'd recognize him. So I guess I get to die if I'm out there camping, or hiking.
I mean, do you think you would approach him and be like, are you Travis Decker?
Fuck no.
Yeah, like,
you know what I would do? Yeah, what I would do is if I saw him, because my hike is usually about 4 mile hike. If I saw him and I'd pass him, I would have I would look like, hey, how's it going? There'd be no recognition on my face that inside I'm going, holy shit, was that Travis? And then as soon as I'm out of view, I'm hoofing it. I'm running a million miles an hour, and I'm down to the ranger station, and I'm like, get everybody, let's go.
We need everything you got. They're just like,
bring everybody.
Who is this maniac? Which, I feel like maybe there could be a situation, devil's advocates, where you could do a citizen's arrest and be a hero. You can approach him and you can say, put your hands on your knees. You're surrounded. You know what I mean? Or like, put your hands in the air. Like,
wait a minute. Let's break this down. This guy's in his 30s. He's super fucking fit. He's trained in combat. He was in Afghanistan. He's a ranger, and he's been living in the mountains, killing bears with his bare hands. Fat little 50-year-old dude, 55-year-old dude's not going to be like, hey, dude, you're under arrest. That would be, you'd be getting a true crime special on me and following my death on your channel. So
yeah. And to Dom's point, he is from Pewaukee originally, which is in Wisconsin, not too far from back where I used to live and where I grew up. But dude, if you think about like that situation that we just said, I'd be curious, like, how many times does that actually happen to people where they come into contact with it or to somebody and they could have said something and they just make the choice like, I'm not going to do it. And what do you say? Right.
I mean, let's not be wrong. If I see the guy, it's not like I'm not going to report it. I'm going to report it. I'm just not going to have a confrontation with him. At best, I might turn around and follow him from a distance if I could do so in a way that doesn't look like I'm following him, so I can keep my eye on him until I get him, because I don't want to lose sight of him and say, well, I saw him, but he's on the loose again. Like if I somehow could follow him, but again, this is it's not going to happen. I think it's going to take 10 days for him to get here if he was heading this way. So I still got a little way to think this out, but I don't think that's going to happen. But yeah, I do think about those. Like, what if I did see him? What would I do?
Yeah, it's fun to build out fake scenarios in your head.
And if you knew for sure it was him definitively, and I have a gun and he doesn't, would you do something? Maybe. But if he gets within hand's reach of you, you have to shoot. You can't let him get, because if he gets within closing distance of you, then you have to be willing to kill somebody. So that all those things go through your head. Like, am I really going to confront him? Because if I confront him, I have to be willing to shoot him, because I can't let him get close to me.
You talked about hiking, and then I'll get back to the slide. I just want to make this point. You talk about hiking, and one of the best tips that I've ever heard for like a survival guide, if you're hiking and your phone is about to die, is to change your voicemail with your last known coordinates, so that if your phone does die and people call it, they know where you went.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Isn't that smart?
Yeah. Unfortunately, that my entire hike is 100% out of cell phone coverage. The entire hike, from the second I hit the trailhead, I have no service all the way till I'm back in town again. So I got nothing.
Yeah. Well, you would have been screwed probably, but I'm glad you're here. And that would have been the most epic headlines ever to see you. You had gone out there to sit in at Brian Coberger's trial. You're on my streams we do a stream together Monday nights, and now you're the hero that would have taken him down.
I got to tell you another thing that's funny about. We talked sometime about, one time we talked in the crazy part of the night about how we might not even be a real thing, that we might be like, like this whole existence may not be real, that we may be just imagining. I told my wife one time, she did not like this. I said, she was like, you need to be careful what you say. Somebody might hunt you down and try to kill you for what you're saying. And I was like, to be honest with you, that's a really cool way to go. Like, I could see myself in the afterlife by like, you know what? How did you go? You died of old age? Well, I got shot by a mass murderer. So I win the lottery. I had a more interesting exit than you did.
Oh my God. I mean, that's kind of crazy to think about. And I can see why your wife didn't like you saying that, because it's terribly morbid.
I don't want her. I don't want her getting hurt on the way out. But sometimes I think to myself, I'm willing to have an interesting way to go.
That is a weird thought. It's a little depressing to think about. So dude, to wrangle this back in, and Hive, thank you for letting us go off on those tangents. We enjoy it. I found this video. I don't want to just play this whole video, but I want to show you guys if you're interested in watching it, because it's a little bit longer.
Okay, so
and I'm going to open up this link so I can show you guys.
It's interesting.
It's from True Crime Forensics. Now, what I thought was very odd is, dude, we've watched this footage so many times, and in the windows, there's people that are pointing at the car as it's leaving and driving on the Dateline footage. Have you ever seen that?
No, I do.
This is just super odd, and he talks about it.
I heard about it.
Yeah. So this is True Crime Forensics video. I had it marked. Shoot, and I just clicked off. Oh, here it is. I'll play a little bit of it.
It looks like suspect vehicle number 1.
And then back on.
So 356, the people here on this side of the window are gone, and they're back over here on this side.
King Road at 3:56 a.m.
And you see more movement from the body.
And 3:58 a.m.
So look,
it's kind of
at
weird,
3:58 a.m.
All this leads me.
You can see the head turn right there.
Mm-hmm.
The head is turning as the car is turning. Let's go back.
8 a.m.
All this leads me.
See? The head turned.
So, like I said, you guys can go watch it. It's a little bit longer, and it's a lot of like breaking down the footage, but I thought it was a really thought-provoking video, and it got me thinking, like, because the biggest argument and the question I don't know how to answer, devil's advocates, is maybe on its face, it's like, why would he ever admit to this and do a plea deal if he didn't really do it? And it's like, you would think that your defense lawyer would be going after any possible lead that could prove that they saw something different than what the state's saying. And like, when they show that there might be people in that house awake and who might have witnessed that suspect vehicle 1 leave, that would be, I would think, a lead that you would pursue. Right?
Right.
And
I mean, yeah.
So it just doesn't
I
seem
just
like
think-
they did that.
You know, the part that a lot of people don't like to hear, and I realize I run the risk of pissing off some people who watch my channel as well, which is that there is a strong possibility Coberger was involved. He just wasn't the only one. And so the plea deal can be, it's like, well, it's not like I wasn't involved. So taking a plea isn't like, it's not like I'm totally, like if you were totally innocent, you could be like, there's no way in hell I'm going down as such a monster. But if he was involved and he did something monstrous, but he's just not the only one, you might be like, there might come a scenario when you would say, well, there's others involved. If I get out of here, I'm a dead man because they're going to know I turned on him, whatever. I mean, there's lots of scenarios where you can say where he might be like, well, fuck it. I mean, I did do something. And is it that big of a stretch to say I did it all? I could just say I did it all.
Do you think he did have some involvement? Because I think if he's involved, I'm telling you, I think he's like the patsy fall guy scapegoat.
Yeah.
From either party, from either meaning he's a Fed that was put there, hence why like Hurwitz is involved, the criminology background, all that shit, or like somebody got him to be just suspicious enough.
I've run over a million theories, and I think that there's a part of me that says that he's involved in some way, but I don't know to what extent. And it literally could have been as well. So not talking all this through, shit was happening around the 2 a.m. to 3 a.m. time in the morning. This is the time that the girls, Kaylee and Maddie, are texting Jack DeCoeur frantically. Something's going on. Around that same time, Coberger allegedly hits the road at 2:40 something. Right around the time they're frantically calling Jack DeCoeur. I think shit's hitting the fan somewhere around that time. Now the question becomes is, did Coberger go and did they know he was on the way? Did somebody was on the way and Coberger was involved in taking someone to the scene? Did Coberger literally show up at the end to help clean up? And maybe he didn't get involved. He was just, I'm going to help clean up because I know a thing about forensics and I can help you clean up. So maybe he didn't have the balls to go do it, but he knows how to clean up a crime scene. So there's a million scenarios in which Coberger could have been involved in some way, either dropping someone off, going there after the fact. Maybe he did show up after the fact. Maybe the murders happened around 3 in the morning, between 3 and 4 in the morning, and he showed up only during the window to do a little cleaning and head out. Like there's a million scenarios in here in which he's part of it, but not the killer necessarily.
Yeah, I mean, shit. I don't know. Everyone's always said, oh, he's a cleaner, oh, he's a getaway driver.
But yeah,
I think there'd be more.
We'll never know.
I just think there'd be more evidence for either of those than what we've seen too.
I agree.
Yeah.
The story that they have does not make sense. And again, I'm sticking with, for the moment, I'm sticking with Steve Gonzalez's outrage is that there are other people involved and they're going to walk because there's no trial and it's never going to come out. And I think what he said, one of the things that Steve said, remember this, I can't remember how he worded it. So maybe I'm reimagining it in a way that it wasn't said. He said something to the effect, you wait until this goes to trial. You're going to be blown away what's going to come out in trial. Could it be because Steve Gonzalez knew that the extra accomplices were going to come out in trial? Maybe he always felt Coberger was one of them, just not all of them. And he's like, you wait till you see what's going to come out in trial. It's going to blow you away. So I can't remember how he worded it, but he indicated that there was a shocker coming. And I remember I said, bullshit, Steve Gonzalez, anything that's going to happen, we already know about. Well, maybe not, because maybe there was going to come out during cross-examination and things like that.
Right, exactly. And I think he said, you're not going to, like, don't believe the speculation that you're about to hear. And I think it was actually pertaining to some of the roommates.
Yeah.
And dude, I've always thought about too, like everyone talks about how that black jacket being on the fire hydrant might have been Maddie's.
Right.
And I'm like, did they run? Like everyone's like, oh, it might have went down outside. Like, did Maddie and Kaylee escape? And then that's what they're being protected for. That's why in the court documents, it doesn't say human being. I don't know.
Yeah. The human, I mean, you kind of hinted, but I didn't really tell you. The human being thing has bothered me. Lots and lots and lots of people ask me about it. What do you think, devil's advocates, about the fact that, they only said human being on 2 of the victims? And like you said, same thing my wife said, the first time it was all of them were human beings. It was only later that it didn't become. And I said to her, the problem I have is, what are you implying? That they weren't human beings, that they were aliens, that they were fictional characters? Like, what exactly would it mean, even if it wasn't just a slip? And again, the other thing is, some of these documents are written by more than one person. So could it be Hitler was literally reading something that had been prepared, and 2 of the people were written by one person and 2 were written by another, and they didn't have the human being part? Like, there's a million excuses you could have. I don't know how I feel about it, other than everybody wants me to, like, say what though? Like say what? That they weren't human beings? Like I'm not sure what it would mean that he didn't call two of them a human being. I don't even know where to go with it.
It's only when he read the actual plea deal part, when he had to plead guilty or not guilty. So that's a hell of a mistake. It's a hell of a typo.
Yeah.
It's a hell of a non-correction. It's a hell of a, I do it right the first time, but not this one time when it matters.
Right. I hear you. I mean, I get the same. I had the same tinfoil hat collection you do, so I get it. I just don't. Yeah. I just haven't felt comfortable yet with like saying, "Oh, that makes," because that's usually what happens when I have a gut feeling. I'm usually like, "Oh, here's what probably happened," and I don't have that. Like, there's not a part of me that says, "Oh, I know why it would have been done that way." That's the part I'm missing, is that gut hunch that says, "Now I know why they said it that way."
Palantir's Gotham platform is used by government agencies, including the FBI, for data analysis and tracking. Thank you for the super chat. That's a great point. Palantir has come up quite a bit. All right. What else did you want to talk about tonight? Because I have kind of a tinfoil hat conspiracy that has to do with this case itself. Or actually, should we just watch this quick? Not this.
Sure, yeah.
Let's watch the plea deal and let's listen to how he says it for people that maybe don't know what we're talking about real quick. Is this where he
and dedication?
Bear with me while I find the right part.
Find the marker. Yeah.
Each of the victims of state
would show a vehicle matching the description.
By the way, do you see? I just he had this pause here. So Bill Thompson, you know where Bill Thompson's at? Point at him, right? Over to his right, there's a female, and there's two females with like a white shirt on and black jackets.
Yep.
Yeah, that's me right between them. That's my little ass right there between those two girls, behind them in that black shirt and my glasses on behind. Not where your mouse is at, but over a little bit more. Over a bit more. That's down. Down, over to the right or to the left, other way. There.
Where the hell are you? Right here?
Right there. Right in between these two girls. I'm right in between those two girls back there.
Wow.
Not there, but the right to the. It was point being, no big deal, no big deal. I was just saying, I was there. I know you're like, oh yeah, I see that. You're like Sasquatch. You're like the blurry figure that never really existed. No, that really is me. I was right there. That's my viewpoint. So, anyways, sorry about that.
No, you're good. Where is it?
Alpha on Walinta. And he had that knowledge and skill.
Yes, Dylan was in the courtroom. I was told. I didn't see Dylan. I would have recognized her, but apparently she was in front of me and to the right, and so I was looking at the back of her head. I didn't get to see her face, but I was told over and over again that she was there. I missed her somehow.
Where's the...
That was another weird thing, by the way, for those who are curious. Like, I only saw one family come into the courtroom. A lot of them apparently had gotten seated hours before we got seated, and only one family filed past us, which I thought was weird. But
that is weird.
On November 3rd,
Coberger moved, which would then show 15 minutes or so. Mr. Coberger's phone returned out on the street for collection, characterization, and that he then
the statements that they wish to at sentencing. Do we need more than one full day for sentencing?
Is he going to do it in this video or not? For the full thing. I hate when this happens because
it's hard to find. It was a long proceeding. It didn't feel long at the time, but it was.
Doesn't look like.
And dedication. As to count 4,
here we go.
Being with intent. Second here. All right.
Can you hear it, DA?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So as to count 1 burglary, the state would have to have proven that on or about November 13, 2022 in Latah County, Idaho, you unlawfully entered a residence located at 1122 King Road in Moscow, Idaho, with the intent to commit the felony crime of murder.
Oh, can you pause for 1 second?
2,
That was one of the wordings that kept bothering me, by the way, too. And I never was going to mention it until he said it. He used that phrase on or around November 13. And I'm like, what the don't you know exactly when it happened? What do you mean on or around? What I don't like, anyways.
They did a lot, even when Bill Thompson was saying it. It was very like speculative, 10 minutes or this and that. It was just odd.
Right.
The state would have had to have proven that on or about that same date in Latah County, Idaho.
You don't know what date it
you
was?
did willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, with premeditation and malice aforethought, kill and murder Madison Mogan, a human being, by stabbing Madison Mogan, from which she died. As to count 3, the state would have had to have proven that on that same date in Latah County, at that same address, you did willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, with premeditation and malice aforethought, kill and murder Kaylee Gonzalez, a human being, by stabbing her, from which she died. As to count 4, the state would have had to have proven that on or about that same date in Latah County, Idaho, you did willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, with premeditation and malice aforethought, kill and murder Xana Kernodle, a human being, by stabbing her, from which she died. And then as to count 5, also murder in the first degree, that on or about November 13th, 2022, in Latah County, Idaho, you did willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, with premeditation and malice aforethought, kill and murder Ethan Chapin, a human being, by stabbing him, from which he died. Do you understand those things the state would have had to have proven?
Yes.
And do you understand that by pleading guilty, the state no longer has
He's
to
not pleading here, though.
prove those things because you're admitting those things are true?
Yes.
But that's not technically the pleading. Am I right in saying that, DA?
I don't know. I think it is part of the plea. I mean, they said, one, did you not write this document saying that you did all these murders? And you've seen the document. It spells out what he did, and it's got his signature. So that they're making him agree like 5 different times. Did you write this document and say you did it? Yes. Did you agree that you did this? Yes. And every single count we're reading separately, did you do it? Yes. So they're just covering their bases. I don't know that this isn't also part of the plea, honestly. I'm like, I don't want to correct you on a live kind of thing, but like my gut feeling is this is all part of what he's admitting to, it's all of it together. But
well, yeah, that was understanding. Do they know what you have to prove? Do you understand what they know? Do you get what they would have had to have proven?
Right.
So that really wouldn't matter.
And then
it could.
Let me ask you, did you,
but
on November 13th, 2022,
yeah, you get what I mean?
Yeah.
Enter the residence at 1122 King Road in Moscow, Idaho, with the intent to commit the felony crime of murder?
Yes.
Did you, on November 13th, 2022, in Latah County, state of Idaho, kill and murder Madison Mogan, a human being?
Yes.
And did you do that willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, and with premeditation and malice aforethought?
Yes.
Did you, on or about that same date in Moscow, Idaho, kill and murder Kaylee Gonzalez, a human being?
Yes.
And did you do that willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, and with premeditation and malice aforethought?
Yes.
And did you, on that same date in Moscow, Idaho, kill and murder Xana Kernodle, a human being?
Yes.
And did you do that willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, with premeditation and malice aforethought?
Yes.
And then on or about November 13th, 2022, again in Latah County, Idaho, did you kill and murder Ethan Chapin, a human being?
Yes.
Did you do that willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, with premeditation and malice aforethought?
Yes.
I would ask the state at this time to provide its recitation of its factual basis had this case gone to trial.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Pause for a second.
Your Honor.
I had a question being asked, and maybe everybody knows it. I just want to make it clear for everybody to 100%, because maybe you all know it. But in the screenshot, I don't know if you ever saw to the far left of Bill Thompson, way out there far, because what you're seeing in here is the media and the public is what's sitting behind Bill Thompson. In the other picture where you see Coberger and Ann Taylor's bench, which was sideways to his table, That is the continuation of the benches that I'm sitting at to the right, and that's all Coberger's family and other people. The families of the victims are off on the left where you can't see them at all. So some people have asked me, and they're trying to pick out family members. The family wasn't sitting in the section here or the other section you can see on camera. They're all off on the side of the camera you can't see at all.
Interesting. Yeah, because I heard a lot of people saying that too, but they're not on film.
Yeah. Anyways, sorry.
Yep. Do you want to listen to this?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. Have you went back and rewatched it since you?
No.
Okay.
The organization of the resuscitation is different than what I think the court and the public may be familiar with from the probable cause affidavit and other documents. The state's evidence, as an overview, would show that back in March of 2022, when the defendant was residing at his parents' residence or residing back in Pennsylvania, his home state, he purchased online a K-bar knife and sheath with an Amazon gift card that he had purchased shortly prior to the purchase of the knife, sheath, and sharpener. Jumping ahead, the end of June of that year, the defendant, Mr. Coberger, moved from Pennsylvania to Pullman, Washington, which is right across the state line from Moscow, Idaho, for the purpose of pursuing a PhD in criminal justice at Washington State University.
This seems so rehearsed.
The state's evidence would indicate that beginning July 9th of 2022, Mr. Coberger's phone began connecting to
Sorry
a
to keep
cell
talking
tower.
over this, but nobody wants to be here. Not in the manner of this is just a terrible thing. Like they're all just they look fucking bored. Excuse my language. They do.
I know. See, here's the problem. I'm going to shut up because I could comment on every fucking thing that he says. Again, I mean, it's like I'll do it once because I don't want to interrupt this whole thing. But again, it makes sense to me going to a state without the death penalty and crossing the state lines to go kill somebody in a state that does have the death penalty. If you're going to kill somebody and it's just random because you don't care who it is, you just feel the need to kill. Why the hell do you go across the state line to Idaho to kill somebody in a state that has the death penalty? Anyways, I could go on. Like I got to shut up and just listen.
No, it's crazy though. You're totally right.
It serves the area of the 1122 King Road residence in Moscow, Idaho. Now, I will acknowledge for the court and all present that there are many residences in that area. It's a dense population of mostly college-related occupants. Between July 9th of 2022 and November 7th, the defendant's phone connected to that particular tower during late night, early morning hours, 10 p.m. to 4 a.m., on approximately 23 times. Now, I will acknowledge also, we do not have evidence that the defendant.
Where is this comment? Hey, Kathy,
I
you want to call us delusional? Listen to what this guy just says. Just listen to this first 5 clip or the first 5 seconds of this, and then I'll clown horn you.
Night, early morning hours, 10 p.m. to 4 a.m., on approximately 23 times. Now, I will acknowledge also, we do not have evidence that the defendant had direct contact with 1122 or with residents of 1122, but we can put his phone in that area on those times.
Yep.
In the interim, on August 22nd of 2022, Lake Tahoe County Sheriff's Deputy Darren Duke conducted a traffic stop in the early morning hour or late evening hours, about 11 p.m. On the west side of Moscow, on the Moscow-Pullman Road. This was a traffic stop of Mr. Coberger's car, which turned out to be a 2015 white Hyundai Elantra with Pennsylvania plates. During the course of the traffic stop, Deputy Duke was able to obtain Mr. Coberger's name, Brian Coberger, his phone number, and his address, which at that point was an apartment address in Pullman. We then move to the early morning hours of November 13th, 2022. The state's evidence would show that early morning hours on that day, Mr. Coberger's phone left his Pullman residence, which is an apartment in kind of the central northwest part of Pullman. That phone was then subsequently turned off at approximately 2:54 a.m. and remained off until approximately
that echo is not my video.
Pause. So this is a little insider information. That echo happened in the courtroom, and officers immediately started moving, looking to find who was recording stuff. They were all over people trying to find the source of that echo. So that echo happened in the courtroom. I heard it too, and I forgot what his name was. There was a sheriff that was right beside me. He was like looking all over the place trying to find it and hunt down the sound. I don't even know what the sound. I think it was somebody's laptop or something. I don't know what streaming the thing live. Yeah, I think they were streaming it live. Yeah, so that echo did happen there.
Wow.
Sunday, the 13th of November. On Sunday, the state's evidence would include a trial, video surveillance of a business on the Moscow-Pullman Highway.
Voice does get really shaky here.
Just across the state line from Moscow. It would show a vehicle matching the description of the defendant's Hyundai Elantra entering Moscow at approximately 3:02 a.m.
Stop. See, this is funny. Those officers in the back, there's 3 officers in the back. They were all looking around trying to find that sound, and here he is moving up to go. That's funny. How I remembered it. Sorry, I digress. But I just watched the officer heading to go look for the sound of that echo. That's hilarious.
Surveillance that the investigators put together from businesses and residents then show the defendant's car, the white Elantra, as I've described, circling the 1122 King Road area, that neighborhood, starting around 3:30 or so in the morning. Comes into the immediate area of 1122 King Road, which is actually on a dead end, and then leaves several times. And approximately 4:05 that morning, the defense car had entered that area, was leaving, stopped at the intersection of King and Queen Road, did a U-turn, and the state's evidence would show that the defendant's car came back and parked behind and above the 1122 King Road residence. The state believes that its evidence would then show that the defendant entered the residence of 1122 through the kitchen sliding door on the back side of the residence, which is the side of the residence that would face the area above where the defendant's car was parked. Defendant entered the residence, went to the 3rd floor, and with a knife, killed Madison Mogan and Caitlin Gonzalez. The defendant, as he left that room, for whatever reason.
Did you think it was a little bit weird he got emotional?
A little.
Yeah.
A little.
I mean, whatever. I get it's.
I mean, to be fair, I'm a softie, so if I was having to read in front of the families how their kids died, I would probably break up a little bit, to be honest with you. But
yeah.
Ended up leaving, or the sheath for a K-bar knife was left on the bed next to Madison Mogan's body. And I can jump ahead. That sheath was tested by the Idaho State Police Forensic Lab, and single source male DNA was found on the snap of that sheath, as well as blood from both Kaylee and Madison and other trace evidence. But it's important to note single source male DNA was on the snap of that sheath.
I don't know if you want to do this, but I have to say this. Oh no, I don't have to fucking say shit. I'm going to say this.
Yeah, you should.
Right. So we talk about how the knife sheath was found on the second pass, and that's not a huge thing because again, at this point, nobody knew who Brian Coberger was, allegedly, and so in any kind of theory where you say it was planted, you're thinking, well, did they literally plant something within moments of the crime? I don't think that's what they mean by planted. Follow the logic. The sheath was gathered up in evidence and it's headed off to Othram Labs under escort by police. Othram Labs couldn't return a hit to Coberger. And it was only after that that the FBI took over and made the connection to Brian Coberger. That's where you get the planted thing. It's not that the knife sheath was planted. It's the allegation that the DNA matching Brian Coberger to the knife sheath was planted after they had come up with the name Brian Coberger and then conveniently had DNA with his name attached to it so that's the question. It's not that the knife sheath. What I'm trying to say is for those who think it's impossible to believe that the knife sheath could have been planted that early and know who Brian Coberger was, that's not the allegation in my mind. The allegation is, after the FBI had Coberger on the radar, say, give us the DNA evidence, we know who did it. Oh, look, we found his DNA on the knife sheath. That's the DNA being planted, not necessarily the knife sheath being planted. Anyways.
Could be. And, dude, I just don't understand how we get so many people that can't at least logically think about it for 2 seconds. Just think about it enough to have it maybe in your brain occur. You know what I mean? Like, so many people can't even just get themselves there mentally to think that could happen.
Right. I can understand believing it didn't happen that way, but
Right.
at least can you imagine it could have happened that way?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
State's evidence would show that Xana Knodel was still awake at this time. In fact, had taken a DoorDash order not long before this started. Her room was not on the 3rd floor. It was on the 2nd floor on the west side. As the defendant was either coming down the stairs or leaving, he encountered Xana, and he ended up killing her, also with a large knife. Ethan Chapin, Xana's boyfriend, was asleep in their bedroom, in her bedroom, and the defendant killed him as well with a large fixed-blade knife. Each victim suffered multiple wounds. I will state for the record that there is no evidence there was any sexual component or sexual assault on any of the victims. I want to make that clear so there's no speculation. There were 2 other roommates in the house.
As everything
and they
else
were
you're
already
saying is
asleep.
speculation, though.
During the course of this, one of those roommates awoke, looked out her door not knowing what was going on, and saw the defendant, who was dressed in black with black balaclava on, holding some sort of container in his hand. And she saw him leave the house through the direction of the kitchen.
I can't get past this. Didn't Steve say, I thought, maybe I'm wrong. Didn't Steve say they've got Brian Coberger at Walmart purchasing a Dickies outfit, and it was a blue Dickies outfit? If it's a blue Dickies outfit, he's dressed in black, according to the defendant. So is it blue or is it black? Like, anyways, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the Dickies outfit wasn't blue. Maybe it was black. I don't know.
But dude, like, we don't even need to watch this whole thing. It's like obvious at this point. We're already able to poke a hole in it.
Yeah, and let's not. I don't want to beat the fuck out of it, but again, so Dylan doesn't hear Xana awake and being attacked and fighting back, which would have been screaming, I think, but she doesn't hear that, but she hears a whispering, there's somebody here. She hears she hears that, right? But she doesn't hear Kaylee fighting back. She doesn't hear Xana fighting back right next to her. She hears whispering of what sounds like, hey, I'm here to help you. That she can hear. She can't hear somebody screaming for their life as they're fighting and putting up a hell of a fight. Like, anyways, we beat the fuck out of this. Anyways. Pardon me if I keep dropping.
Oh, you're good.
I got to stop that. But.
I'm just looking up something. Somebody talked about the color of the pen ink in signing it. And I'm like, does that matter in a court document?
Used to be that you weren't supposed to sign in blue because it didn't photocopy well. I think they still kind of go along with the don't sign in blue thing, but.
Yeah. Well, dude, either way, I was going to say, to kind of wrap this up, our goal of the stream was to just kind of call it out on its face. It's a very obvious, like, it doesn't, if it was as straightforward as people wanted to say it is, everything else in the court would sound straightforward, and none of it is. The documents are sealed. Hurwitz is involved. Coberger takes a plea deal, but yet Ann Taylor says he's completely innocent. We have very flexible timelines and the story of a PCA that's just their own version of it. So, I mean, dude, what are your closing thoughts, dude? Did we get hoodwinked, or is this just a bad, terrible situation?
Yeah, I've already said it, but I'll say it again. My closing thoughts are: I feel like there's a part of me that says Brian Coberger didn't do it at all. So let's get that clear. There's a part of me still that says that he could have accepted a plea deal because he had no choice, and he may not have been involved at all. That's I would give that a possibility still for me. Probability. I think he was involved, but he wasn't the only one. And the plea deal was so that they wouldn't come out in court who else was involved, because they're protecting the people who were involved because of whatever reason. And that's the reason for the plea deal, is that he had some involvement, but they don't want the facts coming out because it'll fuck everybody up, and it'll tell us something that they don't want us to know. That's what I think really happened.
And dude, we still got to get together for one of those Friday night after show parties for a stream. That'd be a good time. And then everybody can also join the Discord. I launched that about a month ago. Shout out to Dawn. That link is in my YouTube bio. I always go in there for about 30 minutes after the stream. So when I get done here, I will be in the Discord chatting with everybody. That's always really fun to kind of debrief And
I'd like,
go ahead.
I'd like to tease one thing if I can. I mean,
Yeah,
I know
go ahead.
you're pretty cool about that. I'm also covering the Gilgo Beach Lisk, they're calling him now,
Oh, yeah.
the Long Island serial killer. I did a video today that I think is worth watching if you're all interested in watching it. It talks about snuff films. Remember the movie 8mm about the whole theory is, are snuff films a real thing? There's police officers, the chief of police who was found supposedly with a snuff film in his possession, who knew Rex Heuermann, the serial killer, and took steps to hide law enforcement's investigation into Rex Heuermann. So that's a video that I put out today. If that intrigues you, check it out. I think it's pretty interesting. Give you a little whet your appetite as something to kind of sink your teeth in while we wait to see if we're ever going to find out anything more about Brian Coberger.
Yeah, 4 hours ago it was just posted. I'll check that out too before bed because you were texting me about that. That's insane.
Yeah,
that's insane.
It's pretty crazy shit.
Oh well, dude, I always enjoy having you on. I look forward to Mondays, and like I said, let me know about maybe this upcoming Friday night if you do it each Friday or if you only do it once a month.
I do it every Friday. So you're welcome any Friday. Hopefully we can pull it off this week, and if not, we'll get it in there here sometime.
Yes, and then also Hive, we're going to be doing the second Hive Mind Roundtable. I will have those dates by the end of this week. I will be live every weeknight. I don't have anything that should interrupt the schedule of 7 p.m. Central each week. And yeah, with that being said, I appreciate it, DA. And if you don't have any closing thoughts, we can wrap it up.
Other than just thanks for having me on again and help. Thanks for, I know that I get feedback all the time that people love seeing the two of us go together. So I hope that continues and that I don't wear out my welcome. But either way, thank you, sir, for bringing me on your show and giving me some time to run my mouth.
Oh, I look forward to it so much. And I think it's awesome. And I'd like to continue it for the foreseeable future. I think the Hive likes it as well. And maybe you should pop into one of our Discords one of these nights.
Yeah,
afterwards. So
for sure.
But yeah. Okay, Hive, I'm glad to be back. Like I said, I hope everybody had a good long holiday weekend. You have all your fingers and toes and nobody blew them off on accident. Who was that football player that did that? Was that Jason Pierre-Paul or somebody that blew his hand off on the 4th? Anyways, hopefully you didn't do that to yourself. DA, I will see you next Monday. And Hive, I will be back on tomorrow night at 7 Central, and I'll be in the Discord in 10 minutes. So I will see y'all there.
Later.
Cheers, everybody.
Birds flying high, you know how I feel. Sun in the sky, you know how I feel. Breeze drifting on by, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life.